All right. Hello, guys, and welcome. My name is Faith. I am one of the founders of the Outlaw Crew. Welcome for you guys that are here from MIB. We're happy to have you. So every single week we do these calls. There are weekly Q&A calls. This isn't an opportunity call. This is a call just for the team. So if you got on here as a guest, we love you, but this is not the call for you. But if you are a paid member of either of our groups, because we're all one big group under Andrew, welcome. We're happy to have you. So these calls started a few months back. Definitely saw a need in the team for some extra one-on-one training. Obviously, we are individuals. We are one person at a time. So we can't obviously give this personal attention, which we do, but we thought it might be a little bit easier to get on these calls every single week, address some of the questions that are coming up within the team in the charts, and this could be for anything. So at any time, if you guys have a question, put it in the chat. Don't hang on to the question. We might not answer it right then, but I want you guys to be present. And so if you have a question in your head, it's going to stay in your head. So just make sure you put it in the chat. We will answer it. And I'm excited to do this for you guys. So obviously a lot of us trade, impulse, a lot of us trade different things. I've traded every single strategy pretty much that there is on the platform. Not saying I'm an expert at, all of them. Not even saying I'm an expert at impulse, but I'm pretty good, right? Good enough to be lethal, good enough to make a lot of money. And you guys will notice sometimes when there's questions asked in the chat, I don't know the answer. And I will say I don't know the answer because I've learned through my journey. I just had my 3-year anniversary the other day, so that is super exciting. So I've been trading for 3 years with the Outlaws. And I'm going to apologize. My face, for those of you guys that know me and my health stuff, my face is a little bit numb right now. So if you guys see this side of my face droop, don't worry. It's normal. It's normal right now. Have no fear. But like half my lips are numb. So I just want to share that if you guys hear me slurring or speaking different than normal. But yeah, so I've been doing this for 3 years. Before I started trading, I was in real estate. I work with animals. So finance was definitely not my wheelhouse. When people had mortgage questions or any of that stuff, right to the mortgage people, wanted nothing to do with numbers. And it's kind of funny how that's all I do is numbers all day long and money. So it's kind of funny how God and the universe makes us go on the path of that we resist the most sometimes, right? They say if you keep what you resist, you persist, or something like that. That's exactly what happened. And so I trade about 8 to 10 hours a week. That's my full-time income now, and just super excited to share with you guys some tips and tricks tonight, bringing it back to basics. So I'm going to be pulling up the impulse scanner. Like I said, if you guys have questions along the way or right now before we even start, and I will get to these topics, what is something that you're feeling challenged around right now? I'm going to break down things even super simple like lot size, because we have a lot of people struggling with lot size right now. And it's just part of it, right? It's part of frustration that as human beings, we find those small things, right? I just saw entries. Exactly. I will show you guys about entry, Fibonacci. Kirk, I will show you how to use the Fibonacci tool tonight. I will show you where it is and how to use it. The biggest thing with entries is patience. And I'll kind of show you really quick when I get through all the tools of how I keep myself patient to not take entries or to not stock trades. Okay, because that's another thing that you can do is you can really get homed in and you get emotionally invested on a trade, and then you make rash decisions. Super difficult to put in and execute a stop loss. iPhone, where are you using the desktop version or the phone app? How do I know my risk to reward is? Lydia, I will show you how to use the risk to reward calculator. Now, for me personally, rash decisions all the time. Yeah. For me personally, you guys will see, for those of you guys that are in the Rockstar chat, and those of you guys that are on my Rockstar chat, you'll see how tight my stop losses are. Now, sometimes they're 2 to 10 pips and people are like, that is crazy, but it's actually not when you isolate your entry. And I'm going to show you guys a little bit of tips about that tonight and how I set my stop loss, because I set them very, very tight. Okay. My thing is I would rather lose a small amount and make massive rewards than to have a larger stop. Now, everybody is different, right? Jason, Clayton, Andrew, myself, John, everybody's different, right? So You can kind of pick and choose what works best for you. But I am going to bring it back to basics when it comes to your lot size tonight and your stop loss, because I do see people and then you're getting into a trade too late. And so we want to make sure you're executing those trades on time and getting those best entries when they're coming up. So I'm going to screen share really quick. Like I said, you guys can keep throwing things in the chat. So once you acknowledge in the chat what you're being challenged with, and I don't like to say struggle, because struggle, you bring it on yourself, but challenges we work through, right? Struggle is just like constantly down. Okay. When we're struggling, we put that in existence. No, it's just a challenge. We're going to work through it and over it. And so I'm going to screen share super fast. Let's see. Okay. You guys can all see this, right? You can all see my screen. Okay, awesome. All right, so this is our impulse scanner. A lot of you guys know what this is. I'm just going to pick a pair based on, I mean, we could even do this Euro USD right now if we want to. We could just stay on this chart, keep it simple. And so the very first thing that you want to know is where are things, right? What are things? So obviously you guys know, if you know the impulse scanner, that these right here are the clouds, okay, otherwise known as Bollinger Bands. Now these definitely tell us something. So if you guys look how it was just consolidated right here, you guys see how this is turning upward. Now that's before we even see where our trend is. You guys see this is turning upward, but this is kind of still flat, right? This hasn't made the full decision yet to completely go both up. But if we were on this chart and we were just sitting here on this chart, first and foremost, we want to make sure the strength is above 20, right? That's a trending pair. But the second thing we want to do is we want to identify what is our trend, okay? So right now, if we look at this chart, what is our trend? Are we on an uptrend or are we on a downtrend? You guys can throw it in the comments. It's going to be interactive tonight. Okay. Picked out because of my stop loss. Okay, Amy, going in opposite of what you select. Got you on that. Oh, all right. All right. Awesome, guys. Right. Primary is an uptrend, right? We're on an uptrend here. So you guys can see that by, I mean, you can see it right here, right? Because that's our primary line, but you guys can also see that we're kind of in an ascending type movement, consolidation a little bit now, going upward. Now, before this move just happened, right? Our blue is above our red. That is also an indication of it going up. Now, if we're looking for sells, we want our red above our blue. Now we're about to cross here, but if you guys know anything about this, this could just be a pullback. Now, how do we know it could be just a pullback? We want to go down here. It's about to cross over. We want to go down here and you see that it has entered into the red. Okay. So we want to be careful right now. Now, is this going to retrace and pull back all the way down? We're not sure. Most likely it pulls down to the 50, which I'm going to show you guys that in a minute. So we want to identify, all right, what's our trend? First and foremost, what's our trend? So we're on an uptrend. Okay. Then if we're on an uptrend, then what we want to do is we want to go and hit our trend line, which is this guy right there. Okay. And we want to draw on the top of the, why did that not? Okay. We want to draw on the top of the red candle. So we want to follow the opposite to see if we take an entry. Okay. So technically right here would be potentially a trade entry reason. Okay. We broke our trend line of our going down. We broke that and we're looking for buys. Okay. We're looking for buys going up. Now I keep it that simple when I look at charts. So if I would have went on here a little while ago, I would have done the same thing for over here. So I would have went over here to my trend line and I place it. So if it's red candles, you place it at the top. You need at least 2 candles to make a trend line. Here we have 3. We hit there, we hit there, and we hit there. Now we're looking for buys. So as soon as it breaks this trend and retests it, we can get in that trade. Now it has to cross above the blue, which it did back here. Okay, it crossed. All right, and we want it in the blue zone. So entry would be right here. when we're in the blue, we already crossed over and we're ready to take that up. Okay. So that would be an example. And then it crosses right here. So it crosses like the next candle over. So if you want to take an entry a little bit earlier, you totally can. If you want to wait and be patient and be extra careful, you can. I do both. Sometimes I go in, depends how, if I'm watching the charts. But right here, see how it kind of crossed, but it's kind of not now. So we want to wait for that. And it's kind of consolidating still. So we want to keep that like that. But with that being said, all I do when I get on these charts is I draw these little trend lines. Okay. And I wait for them to break and retest them and break them. And then I take entries. So in the meantime, so say right here, we wanted to see, let's take this line off. Let's take that off there. Okay. We can probably make another one here. So if we want to see, okay, we know this is coming back. We know this is retracing. How far is it going to go? Now, this is where you can use your Fibonacci tool. So if you go over to the pitchfork, okay, and then I'm going to show you guys how to do your horizontal lines and your charting and stuff in a minute. So if you go over to the pitchfork, click to the right, this is where you find your fib retracement. Now, if you're retracing an uptrend, you want to place it at the bottom and drag it up. And I'm going to show you guys that in a minute. If you're going on a downtrend, you want to place it and drag it down. Okay. So it's pretty simple. So you just take it, you want 2 candles at the same level. So we're going to say for, there's this candle, these candles are right here. It's not the greatest, but it doesn't have to be perfect. So we place it and we drag it up to the top 2. Okay. Now you guys can see this little guy right here just hit our 50. So usually it retraces 50% before it goes back, but it could go into the 6-7 zone. So what I like to do is I like to draw a box. Okay. It's a re-entry box or a potential entry zone. Okay. You go over to your little paintbrush, click on the right, and then you're going to take the rectangle. Now the rectangle you're going to place. So you place it right here. You drag it down or up, whichever way is fine, and drag it over. And you guys can change the color inside the box if you want. Now, most of the time, okay, the markets are going to retrace 50% of the last movement before they start to move again. So for those of you guys that are getting on these charts, you want to watch, because if this movement is an hour, 45 minutes, an hour in, you want to be careful, because it's going to retrace usually within the top of the hour. Within that hour time frame, it retraces. Usually, 45 to 60 minutes, it's going to retrace. So if you're somebody that's on here going, every time I get in, it reverses, I don't know what's going on, check and see how far into that movement you're taking your reentries. Okay. I like the Bonnie and Clyde strategy because it is a reentry strategy. You wait for that first movement and then you confirm it's trending the same direction and you take the reentry. Now here it's getting a little bit choppy. You guys can see, I'm going to take this fib off and I'm going to show you guys, and you guys are going to be able, well, hopefully you'll be able to see, maybe not if you're blocked still though, but I'm going to place this right about there. Okay. Now, why is this area important? It's because it's building structure. See how candle body, and I could bring it down a little bit more. It's not exactly perfect, but like right about there. Okay, which is pretty much our 50. All right. It's building structure between the wicks and the candle bodies. So you want to watch that. Okay. Because it's going to break out of this either direction and go. Okay. Now, I still think it's going to go up because we did hit our fib and it's playing around before it makes its move, or it could completely reverse. Now, once it breaks through this 6-7 zone, it's gone. Okay. You don't want to trade that. Now you guys could potentially be taking trade entries. We're about to cross over. This really isn't a trading call, but like I said, if something comes up, we'll do it, which is happening right now. And then we also want to make sure to put a trend line on this move as well. So we want to take it there. Why is this not working? We're going to take it there at the bottom of the blue. We're going to drag this up. We have 2 points right there that hit this trend line in the moment. So we had that candle, and that candle down there all hit. And then wicks hit here, and this little guy tried to break there, but it didn't. So if you guys did take that, you guys are in profit. A lot of people say, where do we take it till? Well, that's where the zones come in. So this area right here is definitely an area to watch before I even mark any charts, because what is this area right here in the grand scheme of things that's been happening? What is this area right here? It's a new what? I know you guys know this. Did someone answer? What is that area? New high, exactly. Yep. So this is a new all-time high. So we want to watch this, right? Because it has to break through this area to get to the next area and make another new high in this ascending consolidation. Okay. So can you trade consolidation on this? Yes, you can. You just have to be careful. Okay. I don't like it when it's this close. That's too close. This, I'll trade this, but that's a little too tight for me, personally speaking. But yeah, so now we're going to watch this. Now we're in the blue, right? We crossed up. Okay. So that's where, and we broke. Okay. So this is an entry right here. So next, what I like to do is, okay, so say you entered a trade, or, you're waiting for a trade. I like to put the small trend lines on first, because that kind of gives me I'm just focused on that, right? I'm focused on an entry. I'm not focused on zones. When you start to get too much information and you start to do this for a while, you can overcomplicate it big time with all the other stuff, So I like to keep my charts very simple. I'll even, hide my arrows. Like I'll hide my arrows. It looks like we're probably getting ready for another entry there. And then that way I can kind of see it more clear, right? And obviously we have our green arrows too, which is another confirmation. We do have the checklist for this scalping strategy in the Elite Outlaws. So you guys can, just admitting people, you guys can check that out as well. We do have that PDF that explains the steps in detail. So now we're probably getting ready for another one here. Let's see what's happening. You always want to secure profits too. So make sure you guys know whatever your percentage of profit is, that you guys secure that. I'm just setting this up here because it looks like we're getting ready for another entry. Cool. And obviously if we break here, then we've broken this little trend here that's going on right now. All right, cool. So next, and I'm going to check comments in a minute, questions in a minute. So next, what I like to do is, I like to check it out, right? Get my little trend line on there, see what the markets are doing. I only stay on one pair a session. I do not bounce around. No bueno. If it's not, if I'm seeking trades, it's not a good thing, because you're going to force trade. So I personally, I go to my pairs that I love. I go to my one pair I love, or my two pairs I love. And if they're not doing anything, I don't trade right then, because I know at that time of day, the markets move a certain way. This one's about to break for another entry. So what I like to do is I like to switch my chart over to line, and then I go to my 4 hour first. Now this actually popped up really nice and pretty. If it doesn't, you guys can drag these sides. You can drag them bigger, smaller, however you want. You can click and drag this screen down. Highly recommend that you guys are on a minimum of an iPad to look at charts. It's too small on your phone. Especially if you're new, you're not going to be seeing zones that you should see. You're not going to be seeing patterns and stuff like that. And you don't get all the tools on your phone too. I'm going to put this little guy on here because I'm going to do a bunch of them. So now I'm looking for 2 to 3 taps. Now I know that these two are probably good because they're highs, right? And so I like to make my 4 and 1 hour thicker, and then you can lock those in. And now I'm going to keep going, and I'll show you guys. Here's another 2, but I think that's going to be good too. All right. And then down here, there's a couple. This one might be a little bit off. But you guys can see it hit there. I mean, it crossed through there, and then it hit it right around there. And then we're going to just keep going down. Now, these lines don't have to be perfect, guys. It doesn't have to be like, no one's grading you on this. You're not going to get a score saying, oh man, they only got a 70% charting today. No, just get them on there and you can adjust them. So you want, ideally 3 to 5 taps of, you know, a point in any of these areas. Now, after I put a couple of them on there, I'll go to my 1 hour chart and I'll look for some more, right? And so there's one, there's a bunch on that one. There's like 6 or 7 on that one right there. I just drew. You can see them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's a heavy area right there. And then maybe one right there, because I see there, there, and there. All right, so now after we did that, we're going to go back, switch it to candles. I like to go on my hour chart, and we're going to save this too. So I'm going to show you guys how to save the chart really quick. So we just click save. I always put the date, I always put the pair, and I always put the time. Okay. You guys will notice if you chart, you can use your charts for days. So if you save these charts, I've been using the same gold chart for like a week. So you click save. Sometimes I'll start a chart new. Now here's a little trick too. If you guys, everything's smashed together and doesn't look normal, click off the pair and back on it. And it'll go back. All right. Now we have it saved. So just in case it glitches or something happens, like we're not going to lose everything. Right. And so that's why I like to save the charts. So now we're on, I want to go back to our 1 hour actually. So it's all crazy again. So I'm going to scrunch it down. Now, if you guys look on the 1 hour, you see we're on an uptrend, right? So I'm going to do the same exact thing that I did before, which it actually kind of already broke right here. So we are actually starting a new uptrend right here. So I'm going to hang on. I'm going to hold off on that. But normally I would go on the 1 hour chart and I would draw like the main trend line and I would color code it. So I would make it like blue or something like that. So I know it's a heavy area. Sorry, I keep looking at my phone. My sister's really sick and my phone's blown up. So next, after the 1 hour, I go back down to the 1 minute. It looks all smushed. So I click off and click back on that pair. And now I just watch. So let's see, it broke this area here, but it is hitting that area again. It's hitting our 50. So it's hitting our 50. So it wants to make a move, but it's just not doing it yet, but it's not passing the 50 either. So that's a good thing, right? So potentially here could be another trade entry reason as well. Because it just went through the blue. It's about to go into the blue. And we just need the blue and red to cross, which it kind of has. And if I hide the arrows, we want the blue to cross above as well. So we want to definitely check those things. Now, if you guys have questions about all this stuff, Brandon and Josh, so Dr. Josh breaks down charts every morning at 9:30 Central. You guys can convert to your time zone. He goes through every single pair. He goes through what it's doing, what they're predicting could happen, and essentially giving you areas of entering and exiting right on the calls. Now, say we did take a trade, okay, and I'm trying to see where it would be. So I'm trying to see where to show you guys where to set a stop loss. This pair like started trending not great. Okay, and I'm going to show you guys really quick too how to use the long and short position tools. So let's just say hypothetically, and if you guys get on Trading Thursday, you guys can see more of this live too, of actual trading live. This is more just teaching. Oh shoot, that's what's happening. I'm like, what is happening? I forgot I still had this thing on. And it won't turn off. Okay, now it's off. All right, cool. So say we took an entry and I'm going to back this up and I'm going to make the chart clean. Okay. So say we were here. Okay. So we have our, you know, our different zones marked. This one's way down. There's one right there too. So anywhere you guys see like the candle bodies touching, I'll show you this one right here. So right there, there. See all the structure? This is a pretty heavy area to watch for, right? So I'm just admitting people. I think my helpers are trading right now. All right, cool. So we're going to do a hypothetical, just a hypothetical, entry. Okay. So if we're on an uptrend here, just draw our trend line. So say we were drawing our trend line, we were waiting for it to go. All right. I'll show you guys where. So we're right here. We're focused on this, right? So we're waiting for, okay, so we got a bunch of red down arrows. We're waiting. Let me hide the arrows so you guys can see more. So we're waiting for this one to pop, right? We're just waiting for it. So like I said, these things don't have to be perfect. So I would probably draw it like that at first, because I would maybe a little bit higher, like right there. Okay. So you guys see here, we had the cross, right? So we have this on there and we're considering taking a trade. Now you want to look at the bottom and see. So we had a cross up, over here kind of would qualify for the cross up. Or if you want to be, extra careful, you could enter here and take this little ride up here when it broke here, since we already broke there. You can do that too. But let's just take this little trend line here where we drew it on the red because we're looking for buys, right? We have the buy. Okay. We have the up. So we're looking for it here. So we're getting ready to enter right here. Now, as you guys can see, it went into the blue here, right? So right about here would have been, right in this area, because it crossed over right there too, would have been a good trade entry. Now, where would I personally put my stop loss? Okay. So if I entered and there was this much room, okay, I put it at the bottom of my cloud. So I give it a little room to breathe. Now at the bottom of the cloud, if you guys look, there's a wick right there. There's a wick over here. Okay. You guys can see that, right? Wick on that same level, wick over here on that same level. So this is an area. Okay. And then obviously you add your spread. So whatever your spread is, add it onto your stop loss. Now I would put my stop loss, I would put it down here, and then I would start trailing it. Okay. So as soon as it makes its move, I would then move it up. I would probably move it up to the blue or red. Okay. And I would secure profits all the way up. Now I usually place my stop losses on the blue or red in the middle. Now, as long as there's space. Now, if it's super tight, I don't trade it. If it's this small, I'll put it at the top or bottom of the cloud. And then you guys can just scroll over it and you go over to the side and you guys can see that the number pops up. So, like right over there, you see it's 479 is the last three. Okay. On this, which is where, if we were going for a sell, we put it at the top of the cloud. If we're going for buy, put it at the bottom of the cloud. Now, usually when I take the entries, they're already in motion. And so even that much I could put it underneath this zone right here, right? Super tight stops. Now, when you guys are figuring out your risk to reward and you use the calculator, I'm going to highly recommend, if you're new or newer, to not get so frustrated around lot size and pick a standard arbitrary lot size and stick with that lot size. Now, yes, it doesn't make sense because you're not going to be the exact risk to reward. Okay. But if you're figuring out your lot size wrong and it's too big, you're going to be losing more, right? So until you get everything down with actually taking the trades, I recommend you guys use just a standard lot size. Okay. You guys can do it a couple ways. You can do a quick math, which is like a 0.01 lot per 200 or $250, divide it out, times it, multiply it by 0.01, and that's your lot size. Okay. You guys can do kind of like I do. Like I have a lot size that I trade up to that I'm comfortable with right now. And I'm comfortable with the drawdowns. I'm comfortable with the profits I'm making. I'm comfortable with opening up that thing and seeing negative. Okay. I'm comfortable with all of that. Now, some people say, why don't you trade a bigger lot size? I'm not comfortable with that yet. So I don't do it. I know the numbers when it draws down, I am okay with those type of numbers. And so for me personally, mindset wise, that's what I do. Now, like I said, when you first start, yes, you can if you use volatility based stop loss, you could be all over the map on your lot size. Now, the problem with that is if you don't use the same lot size and get consistent with that as well, You're not going to understand the drawdowns when they happen, right? I know if I see a number drawdown, I know where I'm at as far as like my percentage of loss or whatever, right? My risk to reward. Now, if we took this trade right here, and if the tighter the stop loss you have, remember guys, the higher the risk to reward is. Okay. So while some people might hit a 1-to-1, I hit a 1-to-4 to 1-to-7 on that same trade. Or if they hit a 1-to-2, I'm hitting a 1-to-7, right? Because I would rather lose just that little bit and re-enter if I need to, because I can keep my mindset strong, right? So say we took this trade here, and I'm going to go through the questions in just a minute. This is where you would find out like your position, right? Your position calculator for your lot size or for your risk to reward. So if you click, it's right here, long position. So long is a buy and short is a sell. So just remember S sell short. Okay. To keep it simple. Now to use this position calculator, say we entered right here. We entered this trade right here. We decided to enter this trade. Now you place it, and then this is where you can drag it up or down. Now, this trade I would have taken this trade up and over until here, and I'll tell you guys why in a minute. Now for this, I mean, you guys can see my stop loss is super, super tight if I put it at that zone, right? It's super small pip amount, right? 14 pips, super small. So I would have taken it up to here. So we would have hit, if we would have taken that trade, like if I was on these charts, I take the trade, I would hit a 1 to 4.79. Okay. Now, why would I get out over here? Do you guys know why? Yes. So engulfing candle. Exactly. Nailed it. So this wasn't only just an engulfing candle, but it clearly entered, or it opened red at the top of the zone. So if you guys are cruising up, you guys can see I can guarantee these meters were going down, right? So I'm okay with that profit. I'm okay with closing that trade and re-entering on a re-entry. Okay. If you look at the candle analysis and obviously zones, because we had that zone marked, all right, it's going to come down and then it's going to go back up again. So I am okay with scalping from there to there. Okay. I mean, we're still in this trade like half an hour. All right. Maybe almost a half an hour. Let me switch the times here. Okay. So almost a half an hour. Now, the patience for entries is making sure you have your trend line on those retracement candles. Okay. And you have to wait for it to break. And then obviously if the move's been going for an extended period of time, 45 to 60 minutes, you want to hang tight because it's going to retrace. Okay. And you're going to get stuck in that it went the wrong way situation. Okay. When you start seeing these moves happen, the ideal time to get in is the first like 30 minutes. Okay. And ride it out. Now you guys can see it kept hitting. And now we're crossing over again. We're back in the blue. It is up here though, right? So it's probably going to pull back before it goes again, or it could just stay at the top a little bit like over here. All right. So knowing your Fibonacci zone, and like I said, draw the box between the 0.5, which is 50% retracement, and the 0.67, which is the blue on there. And you guys will see that. All right, let me answer some questions really quick in the chat. There's a bunch. Okay, let's scroll back up. Okay. The iPhone person, difficult to put in and execute a stop loss. The stop loss, you just modify the trade. So you just go in and modify the trade. And if you're on the desktop, you can actually drag the stop loss up and down. It's pretty simple. Maybe somebody can make a video in the crew on that, like just a quick couple minute video on how to change your stop loss on the desktop. Okay. And your risk to reward. So just to tell you guys, like if you're new shooting for like a 1-to-2, you usually don't want to shoot for anything under a 1-to-2 because obviously you're risking what you're going to make. Your risk and reward is the same. And so usually we say 1-to-2. 1-to-3 is usually hits on these scanners. And so but you can't be married to that too. It's a goal of yours per trade. Like I would definitely set a percentage per trade too. 2 to 5% is pretty normal, but don't be attached if you don't get it, and you don't want to stay in and lose it too. So you want to make sure you're securing your profits and trailing. I use my iPhone and iPad. How do I use Impulse and MT4 at the same time? I would definitely have them on separate devices. If you could, I would separate them, or you can page back and forth. But if you have an iPhone and an iPad, I would definitely have your chart on your iPad. Oh, if you have an Apple, you can toggle back and forth between the screens on that. Getting knocked out by my stop loss. Randy, are you setting a arbitrary stop loss? Or are you doing volatility based? What is a good time to trade NAS and gold? So NAS is really good before market open or right after. Gold, I usually trade gold at 9 Central in the morning. And then it's good around 11:30, 12:30 Central too. It starts to move in, kind of like indices with in the afternoon with power hour. And then, the indice power hour, 3 to 4 Eastern. But if you get on like an hour or so before, but just back test the charts, Anna, and see when the movements happen. Because like today we didn't have news that really affected gold when I was trading it. And it did not, I got on the chart and I was like, this looks weird. So you kind of know if you're on the same chart. I would definitely recommend gold moves pretty quickly, kind of like NAS, but it doesn't bite you as much. How do you know if price is breaking the trend line or you need to adjust the slope of the trend line? You shouldn't really have to adjust it. I just adjusted it a little bit for, when it moves, if it kind of goes, but it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It just has to be close. But yeah, that 1 hour trend, if it breaks the 1 hour trend line, it's reversing usually most of the time. Can you show us your Fib settings? So my Fibonacci settings it's the 0.5 and the 0.67, and that's right on Impulse. Do you wait for green arrows every time if it's crossing over the trend line, or do you draw? Okay, hang on. Do you wait for green arrows every time if it's crossing over the trend line, you draw and you get the checkup? So that depends. Usually, yes, I do like to have the arrows, but the arrows do happen after the fact. So you kind of gotta check the other things. And if they're in check and you're okay with the risk, like I'm okay risking it and losing it. So as long as you understand there's risk, which that's the hardest thing to grasp at first, is not making it mean something. It's just like, oh, I took a loss or I took an L. I usually don't even say loss, high resistance. How do you secure your profits? Good question, Randy. So to secure the profits, you change your stop loss. So you go in and you adjust your stop loss in the different areas, right? So your stop loss, like on that buy, it starts lower and then you move it up, right? So if you start, say, you're down at say 90 or whatever, you move it up, or vice versa, whichever way. I'm not even gonna say numbers right now because it's not even make sense. But if you're in a buy, you move it up right along the way. And if you're in a sell, you move it down along the way. And then you do it in increments. Once you secure your profits or break even, I would even recommend a break even. Always secure the profits, always take what's on the table. Not the what if, not the, I don't even stand for like big pullbacks anymore. I'll just take another reentry, right? Thanks, Jason. Not understanding the taps. I think that was when I was placing things. Okay, thanks. Yes, that is great. That video that Jason has put in there is awesome. If you place your initial stop loss, do you need to trail it, or can you just exit the trade when you take profit? You can just exit the trade too, Nick. You don't have to trail it if you don't want to. If it's hit if you're new and you're getting into the habit of like taking profit, just take the profit, right? Once it hits your percentage, usually 5% is usually pretty good a trade, just close it. Or you can get in the habit of changing your stop loss up, right? Trail it up or down with your profits. Adding the spread. So if it's 8, how much do you add? Just 8 to the last number. Kirk, that depends on what pair you're on. whether it's a pip or a pipette. So that it just depends what pair. And Jason said, yeah, you add the 8. You always add the 8, but it just depends where you add it. Okay. When I see an entry, I quickly calculate my lot size using the impulse calculator and plug in my order on the MetaTrader. But then I've noticed there's a difference on when I'm actually getting in the trade, like the second candle later, it makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. And it is if you're trying to calculate. Now, if you have the same size account and you're going for the same moves, you can use the same lot size, right? Like if you're going for generally the same moves, you generally have the same stop loss, you can get used to, you know, and like for me, I'm definitely risking less when I do that. And I'm okay with that because then I don't have the whole rigmarole of figuring everything out before I enter it. I still struggle with that. Can MIB members get the Bonnie and Clyde PDF? Yep, absolutely. It's in the Elite Outlaws. Engulfing candles. I just ask if you print it to just keep it within the team, please. For proprietary stuff. Engulfing candle. Yep. You would not know that if the candle was an engulfing candle. Yeah. Are you just watching the RSI? Oh, you know, you see it engulf. Tani, you see it engulf it like real time. You'll watch it go. You'll watch it go up, hit this zone, open red, swallow it. And then if you look at the candles, this next candle here opened at the bottom red, you know it's still going down. And there's a really good video for 9/14/2022. Josh does candle analysis for entries and stuff and exits. Yep, Jason got that. Been using the MT4 trailing stop loss. Yeah, you can do it on the desktop too. You can set the parameters. Do I always trade 1 minute? Absolutely. Yeah, I always trade 1 minute. I'll go back on the 4 and 1, but I always trade 1 minute. Sometimes I'll look at the 5, but not usually. So we had a nice entry there. You guys can see this right here too. That just wicked out a bunch of people. That's a nice little wick right there. And then it's going to pull back and then it's going to go back again. So for an example, let's take this move right here. Just this little move, we can throw a Fibonacci on it. So click on your fib tool. We want the bottom 2 candle bodies, which is right there. We're going to drag it up to the top right there. It's right in our 50 zone now, bouncing around. So if we want, we can draw a rectangle box on that. Now we know if it breaks, if we breaks this little area here, we know that what would happen? There. Now let's see what happens. See, it bounced in the zone, right? It bounced into the 50 a little bit deeper. And now it's probably going to take back off again. So if you guys are wondering like how far can this go down potentially, then you can throw on your little Fibonacci tool and you guys can see that it can go down. Now I do this stuff if I'm like on the charts, just kind of waiting. But you can also see that it's a pullback because it's still in the blue and we're at the bottom and it's crossing back up over the blue again. So this potentially could have been a trade entry as well. So for the Fibonacci, you use the candle bodies. Exactly. The candle bodies are actual movement. The wicks could be manipulation. So as you can see, the sellers pushed in, but they got kind of pushed out. So there's still buyers chilling, right? Like we have a pullback, sure. We threw a doge right there, which is an indecisive, essentially potential reversal candle. So yeah, so you can see that like, yeah, it pushed up, but there's no wick, right? There's no wick there. It just full candle. The whole thing's candle. So that was like a push. That was, I mean, even news could do that. Anything can do that. I didn't check news right now. But yeah, I always do the bodies because that's the actual movement. The wick could be manipulation. Yeah, that's actual volume. Cool. So if you guys have more questions, throw them in the chat. I mean, same thing. If I say I have this little box and I always take the fib off. So see, I have this little box here. So I'll just throw a trend line on again. So it's red candles. So I take it at the top of the candles. I place it on here. I make it go down like that. So right here where it crossed, which it's eventually crossing, right? Could be potential trade. There it crossed through finally. But it is starting to consolidate a little bit. But you guys can see the cloud is still kind of going up, and so is this one. It's going up right there. But we're kind of flat. So the RSI is kind of flat. So it's probably consolidating and the candles are really small. But it usually does that around this time. That's why we do trading Thursdays at 7, just because of the time thing. All right, cool. Let's see. If it breaks through the green box, then it won't retrace back up. It'll continue down. Exactly. Yep. And it's got to break candle bodies, guys, not wicks. Okay. So like, yeah, it just broke here. Sure. But I want to see where that next candle, we're going to watch it right now. So we got a couple seconds left. Let's see where it opens. So it opened at the bottom red. It's going to continue to go. Okay. Because it opened at the same level red. Now it also looks like we're about to have a crossover here. So yeah, you want to be careful if it does break this 6-7 area. And it does look like it's going into the red too. Cool. Jason just put some notes in there about this move. So it was a 1 to 3 with a volatility based stop loss, which he measured in the center. But yeah, if you guys are struggling around, having challenges around, what should your lot size be? What should your stop loss be? Like, honestly, even if you're live, like use a 0.01 lot. Like, even if you guys go on a live account and it's telling you to use a 0.3 or 0.1 or whatever, get used to a 0.01 first, right? Get used to those 0.01 movements. Well, yes, you guys can create $100,000 demos. Sure. Some people it works better because they see bigger numbers. While other people, when they go to their live accounts, those $20 wins, what they don't realize on a $200 account, that's a 10% gain, right? So I highly recommend you guys use, some type of a calculator, for the compound interest to print off and have next to you guys, that can help you. And you guys can use, there's a couple different ones. I use this one because you can print it off. I like this one because you can put in the numbers and then you calculate it and it literally gives you like an area to print it. But yeah, so if you have a $200 account and you're shooting for 5%, we'll just do like 3 days a week. If you guys calculate that, and then you guys can print it, or, you can save it and print it. And I usually like to do the days. And so, yeah, that 5% at first is going to be $10 on 200. So you got to keep your mindset strong around percentage, not number at first too. Kind of like you have to acclimate yourself to, numbers when you trade too, right? As percentages. Try not to give them too much meaning. I know it's hard to do sometimes. So, all right, guys, if we don't have more questions, I'm going to skedaddle, but this will be recorded. I'm going to stop share and